Hi folks, the Filipina P here. And you've probably seen plenty of videos about the pros and cons of living in the Philippines, and I'm sure at some point I'll touch on that subject again. But what about the pros and cons of Filipinos themselves? We're definitely not perfect. We're definitely not angels, but we are different from what you're used to in many ways. Some good, some bad. And while living in the Philippines may or may not be your cup of tea, if you're interested in exploring a relationship with a Filipina, you probably want to know as much as you can about what makes us tick. Now, I've heard some people say, don't listen to a woman when it comes to other women, but I respectfully disagree. There's a reason why they get a forger to understand check fraud or a safecracker so they can make better safes. So, who better to understand Filipinas than a Filipina? Well, here I am at your service. So let's crack open that safe and see what's inside. First, the cons. Filipinos aren't all smiles and laughter. There are things about us that are gonna be a real drag. Things you might not be considering. I'm not gonna put these in any particular order, but I'll touch all the bases. A family affair. I'm not exaggerating when I say that the biggest stumbling block to a successful relationship between a Filipina and a foreigner is most often gonna be her family. You've all heard it. You marry a Filipina, you marry her family. Especially if you partnered with an impoverished Filipina. You probably assume that the problems are gonna be about money. And most of the time, you're right. For a Filipina, being with a foreigner is like ringing the dinner bell to all her friends and relatives and shouting, "Chow time," whether that's her intention or not. But it goes deeper than that. What her family thinks of you can depend on lots of things besides how generous you're gonna be, like how you treat their daughter, are you married, or just living together, your plans regarding children, and it can also be about your past. If you have several divorces behind you, some parents are gonna look at you as less than a perfect match because they assume you're not the kind of man who sticks with things, and the harmony and status of the family won't be improved by having you in it. But whatever the issue, it's better to at least pretend to get along with her family, because if you don't, mom has all kinds of ways to torpedo your relationship if she's that kind of woman. And even if she's not successful, having your Filipina in the middle of a tug war between you and her family isn't going to be a war you can always win. Now, I'm not advocating that you yield to any pressure they might put on you for resources or to change your marital status to please them. I'm just saying that you shouldn't go out of your way to offend them if you can avoid it. Because if you take your Filipina back to the West, having an antagonistic mother-in-law can be an even bigger problem. Because mom can start planting ideas in her head about how she can do better than you now that she's reached the promised land. This certainly isn't the case in every situation, but it's the risk you don't want to take. Believe me. A Filipina's family has all kinds of influence behind the scenes. She and her mom probably talk every other day, and their conversations you're not a part of. So make sure you don't end up on the losing side of things by needlessly making enemies. Having to deal with a Filipina's family is gonna be a big fat con for many of you. Out of sight, out of mind. You might have been talking to a Filipina online for years, professed your love for each other, made permanent plans together, and be counting down the days till you're in each other's arms. Unfortunately, in many cases, that doesn't mean crap. One thing about some Filipinos is that we won't take you seriously until you're physically with us. We've all heard the "I love yous" and "I'll be with you soon" just as much as you've heard them from us. The problem is, in our world, it almost never comes true. So we might keep our options open until your plane is in sight. And it will literally be in sight, because we'll be there to watch it land and make sure there's no one else there waiting for you. So until we actually bond with you through a face-to-face relationship, we sometimes have a tendency to think of you as a potential mate rather than the one. And if you think we're not talking to other guys online or in person, right up until the time you're standing in front of us, you might be making a big mistake. It's entirely possible that the concept of all's fair in love and war was invented by a Filipina. Little white ones and big black ones. Get your minds out of the gutter. This one's about deception, and it's related to the previous topic, even if we don't really view it like that. Some Filipinos tend to say whatever we think you want to hear, whether it's a little white lie or a big old whopper. Now, I'm not excusing it or justifying it. I'm explaining it. Yes, it's deception, and I'm firmly against it. But this is what you might experience. One reason is because we avoid confrontation at all cost. And while it's unethical, it's a lot easier just to tell you anything at all so you won't question us or figure out what we're really up to. It can range from something as innocuous as what we had for lunch to something a little more serious, like who was in our bed. Now, this doesn't apply to every Filipina, but until you're sure of her character, it's definitely a case of buyer beware. The childish bride. Not an actual child, but sometimes it can feel like it. Regardless of our age, childish or immature behavior like tampo is one of the things you might have to combat. Communication never was our strong suit, and a lot of times we just go silent instead of arguing with you or trying to explain what's going on in our heads. Although you want to have an adult conversation to smooth things out or settle them once and for all, we'd rather keep you guessing as to the source of our frustration and drag the whole thing out for hours or even days, even when it turns out that the horrible crime you're guilty of was nothing more than watching a Filipina P video. And the same thing's true with our logic circuits, which don't seem to function half the time. I know you guys aren't generally impressed with a woman's abilities in that department to begin with, but we can take it to a whole new level. Our education system and our culture is more about teaching us what to think and not how to think. So it can make for some frustrating conversations. Just try arguing with a Filipina, and you'll see what I mean. So if you're the kind of guy that doesn't have a high tolerance for juvenile behavior and irrationality, you might have to check the con box for this one. If I can't have you, no one will. I don't think there's a single person watching that doesn't know about a Filipina's legendary propensity for extreme jealousy, unless you've been living under a rock. You know that the slightest little infraction from a rule book you've never seen that might not even exist can cause your Filipina to turn into a Tasmanian devil of suspicion, accusations, and temporary insanity. But as annoying as that can be, it's not actually what makes this such a negative. Yes, it gets worse, because the fun doesn't end just because your relationship did. A jealous ex-Filipina is even more dangerous because she'll often think nothing of messaging every girl you've ever come in contact with and warning them about your shortcomings. If there's a way she can gum up the works and cause you as much discomfort as possible, she'll do it. And don't count on the saying, time heals all wounds, because for a Filipina, there's no statute of limitations. And baby makes 3. Most mixed couples find a way to figure this one out, but having different ideas when it comes to having children can cause a lot of problems. It's literally in a Filipina's DNA to have at least 1 or 2 kids. And although it's not always the case, you can pretty much count on it. So once again, especially in situations involving a large age gap, you and your Filipina might be in totally different stages of life, where she's still wanting offspring, but you're wanting to relax and enjoy a part of your life that doesn't involve diapers and sleepless nights. So unless your name's Marty McFly, a Filipina's dreams for the future might not be a future you want to go back to. The blame game. Here's another culture difference that can drive you up the wall. And although it probably won't break you up, it's a trait that'll keep causing discord between you. Have you ever complained about your Filipina's behavior or caught her doing something wrong? I almost guarantee, if you called her out on it, her first reaction was to blame it on someone else. Anything to avoid taking responsibility for her misdeed. It's a kind of a knee-jerk reaction here, our go-to defense posture. And it's just the way a lot of Filipinos handle things. You guys are taught to own up to your errors, that it's the honorable and mature thing to do. So you're often disappointed when we don't live up to the standard of behavior you expect. And even if you catch us red-handed, don't count on us to admit it. You know we did it. We know we did it. So we're just hoping you'll just drop it and move on. But now for the pros. Keep in touch. Filipinos might be the most affectionate creatures on the planet, and we just love to hold hands, snuggle, and basically keep in physical contact with you 24/7. It's probably gonna be more affection than you've ever had in your life, and you're gonna like it. It'll make you feel desired, appreciated, and it's a sure sign that we're into you. Some guys also say makes him feel a lot younger, and since when is that not a good thing? Sugar, spice, and everything nice. Filipinas are the definition of femininity. You'll usually see us in dresses, with longer hair, carrying ourselves like the kind of woman who knows what it means to be a woman. And despite all the different islands and languages, it's something that most Filipinas share in common. And we don't look this way because it's expected of us. We look this way because it's natural for us. It just feels right. We enjoy being feminine, and you enjoy us being feminine. So it's a win-win and a big check mark in the pro column. Think not of tomorrow. Filipinos usually don't have a lot of grand plans and expectations. You're not gonna hear the average Filipino say, I want to have 2.5 kids within the next 5 years, and I want to have a 4-bedroom house on a golf course. We're just happy to hang out with you wherever you are. So if you're at a stage in your life when you're ready to settle down and take it slow, that's exactly what most Filipinos are looking for. We don't expect you to take us jet-setting around the globe. We're happy watching a good movie on the couch, and when you're happy, we're happy. Back to basics. Along with a more feminine appearance, we also prefer traditional roles. Not only do we have a good idea what a woman should look like, we have a good idea of what they should act like too. And it's what we want to do, not just submit to doing it. There's a big difference. We cherish our roles as homemakers, and we especially like to cook for you. Making something you like is a big deal for us, and it's another way we can show we love you. As for the manual labor that's necessary to keep the house in order, it seems strange to us when Western women complain about having to do more than 50% of the household chores. That's one of our ways of contributing to the relationship. And the sight of you standing there in an apron with a broom in your hand is probably something we'd wish we could unsee. Most of us would be happy that you offered to help, but we're just as happy if you don't. You take care of steering the ship, and we'll take care of keeping it in good shape. And baby makes 3. Wait a sec, didn't we already cover this one? Not exactly, because this con can also be a pro. For those of you who do want a child, a Filipina will be thrilled to accommodate you. You don't even need to ask. Her answer is, yes, please, when can we start? A discounted life. You'll find that a relationship with a Filipino will generally cost you much less than one with a Western woman. We don't really need or expect that much in the way of material luxuries. We've never had them, and we can be perfectly happy without them. The average Filipina doesn't want to own this or that. We just want to be happy and safe. And I don't think I need to tell you how different that mindset is. But many of you worry about the long term. You worry about partnering with a Filipina that'll quickly bleed you dry. But what do you actually risk? If you set the ground rules as far as helping family and stick to them, then the only thing you risk is what you choose to risk. No one can reach into your bank account and steal your money like they can in the West. And if you decided to get married, which I don't think I'd do if I were a foreigner, but I know a lot of guys want to do it anyway, then you can protect yourself legally here too, especially if you stay in the Philippines. In the West, prenups get overturned all the time. Not here. You don't need to put your future at risk, and you always have the option to just leave the country if you want. Most of the foreigners who had bad experiences with losing money here allow themselves to be tricked. Just be smart about it. Keep control of your own finances, and you'll be fine. Our frugal natures combined with legal protection can make the low cost of a relationship here a huge win for the pro column. Whatever you say, dear. It drives some of you crazy when you present us with options, like what to eat, and our answer is always whatever you want. It makes us sound indecisive, like we're afraid to give our opinion. But if you think about it, it shows we're just trying to be agreeable. Most Filipinos have a very agreeable attitude, and we're not very fussy or particular at all. If you leave the toilet seat up, chances are we'll just quietly put it back down again without making a federal case out of it. We don't purposely try to start fights with you. In fact, we'll usually go out of our way to avoid having fights with you. Now just think about how much better your quality of life will be with an agreeable partner compared to what you might have seen in the past. That trait alone can transform the flavor of the whole relationship, and it gives Filipinos another big advantage. The ugly duckling. Here's an important one that many of you guys have a hard time accepting because you don't believe the reasons behind it. You're still living with the belief that you have to be a 6-foot tall Adonis to even stand a chance with a beautiful woman here, because the grading system where you come from is much more brutal and superficial. The truth is, we don't hold your physical flaws against you. Extra weight? A bald spot? A limp? We don't see them as deal breakers. Now some of you guys will say, well, that's because she's not in it for companionship. She's just after your money. And if she has to close her eyes and hold her nose, she'll take one for the team. But not every Filipina is pretending to be attracted to you or just looking to suck your cash right out of your wallet. Sure, if you pick the wrong one, that could absolutely be true, just like it happens everywhere else. But if that was always or even usually the case, I'd tell you about it. I'd much rather give you accurate information, and it doesn't benefit me to deceive you. If I were only looking for what's in my best interest, I could easily have a channel where I just bash Filipinos and their motives, and maybe women in general. I could go around giving you hysterical warnings about all kinds of things and casting everything about the Philippines in a negative light. Channels that take that angry approach often do very well because people love controversy and hearing people attack each other. And that message is very popular with men who are already suspicious of women and don't know anything about the real situation here. So they just eat it up when they hear about another way that Filipinos are out to pull one over on them, or how the cards are stacked against them here in the Philippines. But I'll just stick with telling you the honest truth as I see it. And in this case, I can tell you that Filipinos really aren't looking for physical perfection. In my culture, having a good man that will stick around is much more important than choosing a pretty boy. In fact, picking a guy that's super good looking here can often be a disadvantage, and we know it. We're much more practical about these things. In the West, many women have an attitude that they can have it all: a devoted husband, a profitable career, and maybe a chat or two on the side. We don't have those options here. And a Filipino with half a brain will snatch a good man up and hold on tight because there's a good chance she won't get another shot. Now, I'm not saying that we secretly find your varicose veins super sexy or that your liver spots give us the tingles. What I'm saying is that we can easily look beyond those things to appreciate the man underneath the flaws. And that, my friends, gives Filipinas a huge checkmark in the pro column because any relationship based on looks already has a built-in shelf life, something that a lot of Western women have yet to learn. So that's my list of pros and cons when considering a Filipina as a partner. But no one besides you can decide if the happiness is worth the headaches that come with it. If I left anything out that you think is worth mentioning, I look forward to reading about it in the comment section. I'll be back on Tuesday with something else to make you think and make you smile. Till next time, folks.
Just sit right back.
If you think about it, I'm kind of like Marianne. We both have bubbly personalities. We've lived in bamboo huts, and both of us are stuck on a tropical island, doing whatever we can to get off. If you want to help me get rescued, please subscribe to my channel, share my videos with friends, and hit that notification bell so you can see my next episode. And if you really want to save me, check out my Patreon channel for extra content and exclusive videos. And also like Marianne, I have to take cold showers. Hey Gilligan, will you throw me that towel?
His little towels.
I'm really not looking forward to this.
No, you sure don't look like the skipper.
Gilligan? Only 4 men on the island, and I have to get stuck with a peeping Gilligan.